All right, let's take a little trip back in time. Back to a moment in database history when things were, well, they were in a constant state of chaos. Today, we're going to talk about the one piece of tech that really changed the game by bringing order to all that madness: Oracle's Resource Manager. So, to really get this, let's start with a question. Imagine a database where every single task is fighting to be number one. You've got a super important sales report, a low priority background job, everything. And they're all screaming for the same resources, all at the same time. What happens? You guessed it, total chaos. And that chaos is exactly the problem this technology was built to solve. And that kind of brings us to our first stop. We need to understand what it was like before there was a referee on the field. This was seriously the era of the database at war with itself. You know, before 1999, if you were a DBA for a big company, your life was probably filled with a low level of constant panic. These huge databases were like the digital Wild West. There was very little real control over how all those precious system resources were being used from one moment to the next. I mean, this was a world of daily battles. You had these runaway queries, right? A single, poorly written request that could literally bring the whole system grinding to a halt. Then you had greedy sessions just sucking up all the available CPU power. And the real kicker? Your most critical, money-making business tasks could get completely starved of resources, all because there was no way to tell the database what was actually important.
So yeah, this situation, it just wasn't sustainable. Something had to be done. A solution was desperately needed to step in and start enforcing some rules, which, leads us perfectly to the arrival of a brand new kind of enforcer.
And that solution came in 1999 with Oracle 8i, the Resource Manager. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a referee in a really high-stakes game. Its job wasn't to stop the game, but to enforce the rules, to make sure things were fair, and to stop any one player from just taking over the whole field. So how did this referee actually do its job? Well, it was a pretty logical three-step process. First, you'd group your users. You'd put your critical financial analysts in one bucket, for example, and your non-urgent batch jobs in another. Simple enough. Second, you would define the rules in what's called a resource plan. This is where you'd say exactly how much CPU each group gets. And finally, you could enforce hard limits, things that would automatically kill those runaway queries before they did any real damage. It was simple, logical, and just incredibly powerful. But you know how it is with technology. It never just stands still. And the Resource Manager was no different. That rulebook didn't stay the same. It had to evolve over 2 decades to handle totally new kinds of challenges. And you can really see that evolution here over time. It started out in '99 just managing basic CPU. By 2003, it got bigger. It could manage disk I/O too. But 2013, that was a huge leap. It became multi-tenant aware. And this was absolutely critical for the cloud era because it meant it could manage resources across a whole bunch of different databases, all sharing the same hardware. You fast forward to today, and it's a super automated core part of the Oracle Cloud. So let's go to our final section and see how this journey, from simple control all the way to sophisticated automation, had this really profound and lasting impact on the whole industry. See, its impact was way bigger than just organizing CPU cycles. It delivered real business value. It ensured fairness, which meant critical reports actually ran on time. It guaranteed performance, and that let companies confidently meet their service-level agreements, their SLAs, which helped them avoid penalties and keep customers happy. And all that fine green control, that was absolutely essential for businesses that needed to follow strict compliance and regulatory rules. But here's the thing, perhaps its greatest legacy is this. That whole 20-year journey of teaching a database how to manage its own resources, that laid the essential groundwork for Oracle's modern, self-driving, autonomous database. All that intelligence didn't just appear out of nowhere, it was built directly on this foundation. Ultimately, Resource Manager was the technology that stepped into that digital Wild West and established law and order. It turned a database that was at war with itself into a well-orchestrated system, making sure every single workload got its fair share of the power. It was, no doubt about it, a true game changer in database history.